Hi, everyone. Welcome to the October 4th, 2021 Long Meadow Select Board meeting. This is Select Board Chair Mark Strange. I'll be confirming that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Steve Morantz.
Here.
Josh Levine.
Here.
Mark Gold.
Here.
Tom Lacusa.
Here.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Lynn Simmons.
Here.
Mike Barbieri.
Here.
And while we have the planning board members on, let's confirm that they can hear what's going on as well. Don Holland.
Here.
Bruce Colton. Okay. And was Walter going to join us tonight?
Walter Gunn should be joining us, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe he is too. I don't see him in the attendees list yet, but I believe he's joining us.
Okay. This open meeting of Long Meadow Select Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. This meeting is convening by Zoom webinar as posted on the agenda and town's website, identifying how the public may join. There is no chat or Q&A function. All of the materials for this meeting are available on the agenda posted on longmeadow.org. Public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. The meeting will feature resident comment. For resident comment using the Zoom webinar format, members of the public are attendees. If a member of the public would like to speak during resident comment, please use the raise hand icon at the bottom of the screen. The meeting moderator will promote you to panelist, unmute you, and give you permission to speak. If you join the webinar by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and *6 to mute and unmute. Residents who wish to speak will identify their names and addresses only. Each individual will be afforded 3 minutes for comments. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Please remember to mute your phone or your computer when you're not speaking. First order of business is select board announcements. Planning board vacancy. The town of Long Meadow is seeking a resident to fill a vacancy on the planning board. Any resident interested in being considered for appointment to fill this vacancy is required to submit an application, cover letter, and resume to the select board's office at 20 William Street. The deadline for that is October 14th, which is a Thursday. Applications are available on the boards and commissions page on the town website. Please submit a cover letter and a resume with your application to adminassistant@longmeadow.org. This appointment will be for a term ending in June 2022, which is the next annual town election. The planning board operates under the provisions of the Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A and Chapter 41, and has the responsibility to guide the development of the town in the best interest of all residents. The board has very specific responsibilities and authorities granted by Mass General Laws, the zoning bylaws of the town of Long Meadow. Excuse me. So this planning board vacancy is a new one or an additional one to the vacancy that we're considering this evening. Water, sewer, and stormwater billing. The biannual water, sewer, and stormwater bill was mailed out a few weeks back. This covers the billing period of February until July, and this will be the last biannual bill as we switch to a quarterly billing cycle. An insert explaining this change is included in the upcoming bill. The bill will be due in December and will contain only 2 months of usage as we continue to transition to the new quarterly system. The schedule moving forward is linked in the news flash on the town website and will be included in the next bills being mailed out. Who's eligible for a booster? Please visit vaxfinder.mass.gov for a full list of hundreds of locations to receive a booster. For those unable to use VaxFinder, contact the COVID-19 vaccine resource line Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 6. Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 2, by calling 211, following prompts. Prompts are available in English and Spanish with translators available for over 100 additional languages. Flu clinics. The Longmeadow Board of Health has scheduled fall flu clinics through Big Y and will be open to all Longmeadow residents over 18 years of age. The clinics will be held on Thursday, October 21st, from 1 to 3, and from 4 to 6. Registration is required. Please email health@longmeadow.org or call the Board of Health at 413-565-4140. A copy of your health insurance card must also be brought to the appointment. Forms will be available at the clinic and can be completed on site. Masks will be required at all times. The clinics will be held at the Greenwood Center, which is located at 231 Maple Road. Please enter through the main entrance, which is the entrance to the Child Care Center, and follow the signs. Last but not least, Town Treasurer's Abandoned Funds Notice. As per Mass General Laws, Chapter 200A, Section 9AC, the following is being posted on behalf of the town of Longmeadow. Quote, notice of names of persons appearing to be owners of funds held by the town of Longmeadow and deemed abandoned. Quote, view the full list of abandoned funds. Please visit the homepage of the website. You should contact the Treasurer's Office at 413-567-1066 or email ebrunel, that's EBRUNELL, at longmeadow.org by October 1st, 2022 to redeem your funds. Okay. Next up is our planning board vacancy.
Mark, I had a couple of announcements I was asked to give, if I could.
Sure, go for it, Mark.
Sure. I was sent this today from the recycling committee about leaf recycling. October 16th, and I'm just going to read this. October 16th, West Road leaf drop-off site opens using West Road for access. The leaf site is open 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is weather dependent. Closing date is scheduled for Sunday, December 6th, and the annual recycling center sticker is required. November 6th, 2021, fall hours begin at the recycling center. On November 6th, the recycling center will be open Saturdays only from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. beginning November 6th through December. And finally, on November 6th, 20th, and December 4th, curbside collection of special town leaf bags. Bags must be set to the curb by 7 a.m. on the days of collection. The schedule is subject to change due to the weather. Again, November 6th, 20th, and December 4th for curbside bagged leaf collection.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, next item up is the planning board vacancy appointment. So at our last meeting, we had interviews with Carl Petrick and Cheryl Thibodeau. I want to thank them both for stepping up and volunteering to fill the vacancy left behind by our own Josh Levine. And tonight, we're on the agenda to make this appointment.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
A question from a point from Michael Barbieri. Again, Bruce Colton is on video only, but if you look for a phone number, 567-1070, that would be his audio link. It's my home phone number. If you want to hook him in.
All right, he should be in there now.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you hear us, Bruce?
Bruce? You're muted, Bruce. What's the, what do you...
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you are, yep.
Yes, okay, sorry. I was pushing the mute button, not the *6.
Yeah, Mark.
You prepared to accept the nomination or motion?
We can have a motion, then have a discussion about it.
I'll move that we appoint Cheryl Thibodeau to fill the vacancy on the planning board through June, the next election in June of 2022.
Second. That.
Any discussion?
Yes, hi, Mark. I
Yeah,
understand through Michael that we have additional candidates. Michael, how many additional candidates do we have? Barbieri, Mr. Barbieri?
As of right now, just one additional candidate. It's my understanding that we have to re-advertise the new vacancy that was just created, I believe, last week, before we're able to re-interview for that opening.
Yeah, that would be correct. So we closed off the interview process was closed off 2 weeks ago, Don. So any new applicants would be.
This is Bruce Colton. I have a question or a comment. I've been to a number of these caucuses where vacancies on the planning board have been filled over the decades. And I don't believe we've ever filled a vacancy the way this caucus seems to be doing it. What we've always done in the past is the roll call of the select board and the planning board were made, and each member would say who they were going to vote for. I don't think it's ever been done by having a motion to appoint one of the people and then voting that up or down.
What's the difference? I mean, if you don't like the candidate that's been put forward, you would say no, and then.
Well, presumably the result would be the same, but it just seems like a strange way of doing it.
Well, Bruce, I think the charter might set it up this way. The charter that was put in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm not sure. I'll second Mark's nomination or motion, I should say, assuming that all of us can do on this rather than doing it separately by board.
I think it already was seconded, right?
Mm-hmm. I just had a question for the planning board. When was the last time you had a woman on the planning board?
Heather Laporte, just a couple years ago.
Oh, okay.
That's who I took.
We've actually had a number of them over the years, but they tend to leave. Eileen Sorrentino was on for a number of years, but most of the other seem to resign after 1 or 2 years. They tend to move away.
There was a professor from Smith College, I remember. She was only on for several months and then dropped off.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, Mark.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
I think we're lucky that we had two really qualified candidates here, and I would encourage anyone who is not appointed to apply for the new spot that is opening up. But I support Cheryl. I know Cheryl very well. I think she is. I've always admired her skill and drive, and I think she would be a great addition. Also, as we've discussed, this is when Ken was on. It was 9 men interviewing 1 woman, and I think it's good to get a different voice on one of the top positions in town. And I hope it encourages a more diverse electorate coming up in the future. So I think that Cheryl will be a great addition, and I hope everyone will support her.
Mr. Chair, our clerk has her hand up, it seems. Bianca. Mike?
Can I speak?
Yeah, go ahead, Bianca.
Oh, hi. Good evening. I am so sorry. I am Bianca, the planning board recorder. I just want to make sure that we are doing this diligently. When the select board chair, Mark Strange, did a roll call of everyone that was present, unfortunately, only Don Holland from the planning board was present at that very moment. I think it would be just wise to do a quick roll call vote, at least on the planning board side, to confirm which are the members that are present in tonight's meeting.
Does the planning board chair want to do that?
Don?
Hi. Well, Walter, are you here? Walter Gunn?
Yes, present.
Walter, move your phone back so we don't have an echo.
I'm not near a phone.
Comments. Okay. Bruce Colton, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
And that's the only three that are currently on the board, myself included.
Thank you, Bianca. We're still, you know, go ahead,
I
Don.
have a comment, please, that I'd like to make about Cheryl.
Mhm.
I think that her background is excellent, and I concur with Josh. I think that Cheryl Thibodeau would be an excellent addition to the planning board. I think that it's helpful to have someone with her background and views on the board, and so I would endorse her heartily.
Any other comments? Okay, yeah, I would just echo what everybody said. I know Cheryl as well, and she's dynamite. So I'm looking forward to working with her on the planning board. Gets elected. It's appointed here. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so when we do the roll, are we doing the full roll for both boards, or are we doing them separately?
I think we should do the full floor for both of them together.
Okay.
But the motion is for, I think, Cheryl, Bruce, and it's been seconded. So you could say, again, if you're not interested in Cheryl, you'd say you have a no vote. Otherwise, if she didn't pass by, how many of us are there? There's five.
There's 8 of us.
8 of us. So if she didn't pass by 5, then we'd have to start over.
Mike, can we call the roll?
Sure. Why don't
Mr.
you do it?
Strange?
Go ahead.
Or let you.
Mr. Strange?
Yes.
Mr. Morantz?
Yes.
Mr. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Mr. Lacusa? You're muted, Mr. Lacusa.
Yes, please. Thanks. Did you get me?
No, I was muted. Yeah, I got you, Tom. Mr. Holland? Mr. Gunn?
Yes.
Mr. Colton?
Yes.
Clean sweep. Congratulations to Cheryl. And I would encourage Carl Petrick to, reapply and interview for this, for Ken Taylor's upcoming vacancy. Thank you to both.
Also, someone should tell Cheryl that she needs to go down to the town clerk's office to get sworn in prior to the Wednesday night's planning board meeting.
Yeah, that's a good point, Bruce. We're meeting in person on Wednesday at the high school, 8:15. Only because we thought it would be a good time for a meet and greet with her, or him, or whoever had been appointed tonight. So yeah, she needs to be sworn in between now and Wednesday night.
I know she's watching right now.
Oh, okay, good.
She works in Hartford, so I'll let her know.
Yeah, so yeah, our meeting's at 7 p.m. Same as select board, except it'll be on Wednesday.
Also, I usually send out the appointment letters the next day, so I'll send out the letter via email tomorrow. I'll coordinate with Bianca as well, and then the town clerk to organize the swearing-in process.
All right, thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Anything else?
Oh, good night, everybody.
Hold on, Bruce. We got to make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, okay. I'm still here.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the planning board's portion of the joint meeting with the select board.
Second that.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
No, sir.
No, let's take a vote. Walter?
Yes.
Bruce?
Yes.
And myself, Don Holland, yes. Thank you, Mark, and everyone else on the select board, and thank you, Lynn and Mike.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
We'll stay tuned and keep watching you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Good night. Bye.
Bye, Bruce. Okay, moving right along. Board and committee interviews. What do we got tonight? Do we have Rose?
Yes, Rose is in. I'm going to move her into be a panelist now.
Hi, Rose.
Good. Sorry for you. Hello.
There you are. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me tonight.
Yeah, so we're hoping maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in joining the audit committee.
Sure. So my name is Rose Bernal Lariosa. My husband and I have been residents of Longmeadow for the last 12 years. Our children were born here and growing up here, and we have called Longmeadow our home. I am a doctor. I am a practicing physician in Chicopee for Trinity Health of New England. And my management experience as being the chief of non-surgical specialties of Trinity Health. I'm doing my MBA, so I am a little bit more familiar with accounting and financing. We've been here for 12 years. I think it's time for me to give back to the town and to serve and offer my time.
Terrific. Does anybody have any questions for Rose? Yeah, Mark, you're muted. Yeah.
Rose, thank you. Have you had a chance to speak to anybody in the current audit committee to get a sense of what they focus on and what the issues are?
Unfortunately, no. The only person I've spoken to is Mike. I put in my application. I said I want to volunteer. There were openings for different committees, and I put in my name for health and audit. I think health doesn't have an opening until next year.
Okay, you might want to talk to somebody just as you move along. I think will be helpful. The question I won't ask you is one that I was put up to by a former CFO of the town, and you don't need to answer this. And the question we should ask, he said we should ask everybody is, do you balance your checkbook to the penny? But we
I do it online now. The checkbooks are all digital. I'm not sure about to the penny, but I will be meticulous when I look at the financial records of Longmeadow, if that's the real question.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Rose? Very good. Well, thank you so much for your time. We will be you'll be back on the agenda in 2 weeks, and we'll take a vote.
Thank you.
I'll let you know. Have a great night.
You too.
Bye-bye. Is Kimberly Barton available?
Just moved Kimberly in to be a panelist now.
Hi, Kimberly.
Kimberly, if you could just unmute yourself.
Okay, I don't have a visual, do I?
We could hear you.
Well, let's see. There we go. I don't know if this does me any favors. Oh dear. It's completely black.
Well, we can hear you.
There we go.
There you are.
Hi. Okay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for volunteering. And so if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're interested in joining the conservation.
Okay, well, I grew up in Longmeadow. I was born, I'm the only member of my family that was born to Springfield in Massachusetts, and Longmeadow. So I know the town quite well, Laurel Park, Bliss Park, and when I became a teenager, I went on to Bennington College and to Berkeley for graduate school in political science, master's degree in that. And then I earned a PhD in sociology from the New School for Social Research in New York City. But I'm interested in environmental studies, and I'm strong conservation-minded individual who would like to serve the town. I have a daughter who is who's very much into climate change issues, and she created her own climate change club, and we enjoy that activity as a family. She's part of the Sunrise group, and so I wanted in turn to join in that effort. My family has a large 772 acre land in the Poconos, which has been part of our family legacy for over a century. And we are stewards over the land. We have a conservation easement on the land. And we have had to address a number of conflicts, for example, with PP&L wanting to put power lines across the land, and also with Nature's Way Pure Water wanting to take water from the highest hill in the Poconos, which is visible from across the way, and it's Blair Hill, and they wanted to take the water at 99,000 gallons per minute and to bottle it and sell. And we had to fight and get geologists and attorneys and do what we could with that. And so I've gained some experience, and I'm more invested in waterways, and we have our own watersheds. So as stewards over that land, I have more respect for the importance of conservation. And I think on the Conservation Commission, their primary interest is in wetlands and wetland protection. And in the conservation easement my family is beholden to, we have precisely that responsibility as stewards.
Thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions for Kimberly?
Yes.
Yeah, Mark.
I can't hear you. There we go.
Ms. Spartner, have you had a chance to speak with Mr. Laxo or any of the other, who's the chair, or any of the other members of the conservation committee?
No, I have not. I have not had it. I simply applied. I wasn't entirely clear on the procedure. I'm not sure if they're present. I have talked with one member, and that is Andrea Chasen. Andrea Chasen and I have had a discussion, and she's the only other female member on the board. And I have met a few people relating to the pipeline issue, the metering station that's in the works now, which I've been becoming aware of and informed about.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions for Kimberly?
Mark, I'd just like to thank you. Kimberly, it's great that you're stepping forward and that you recognize the connection between your own, experience with your family and some of the things that may come before the town. And I'm glad you're willing to step forward. So just thank you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, thank you for having me.
So we, at our next meeting in 2 weeks, we'll have a vote on your interview.
Okay.
Until then, have a good night, have a good couple weeks, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. We are on to our public hearing. Are we ready for that? Is Eversource here?
Yeah, it's not the representative we met with last time, and I did not get a chance to get a name. So there is somebody with their hand up right now. I'm not sure if they're from Eversource or not. You want me to move them in?
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi. So I am definitely not from Eversource. My name is Deborah Sorolnik, 92 Arlington Road. My family has been residents in Long Meadow since 1964. According to Eversource, the proposed natural gas pipeline work in Long Meadow could help end the leaks from aging cast iron pipes and address other reliability and safety issues. In fact, the gas pipeline in Long Meadow does not need to be expanded in order to end leaks. We are happy to see leaking pipes repaired or replaced, but we are not fooled by Eversource claiming that the pipeline expansion through Long Meadow benefits the residents of Long Meadow. Almost 100% of Long Meadow homes who desire it already have access to natural gas. The intention of the pipeline through Long Meadow is to deliver gas to areas outside of Long Meadow and thereby deliver bigger profits to Eversource. We would be happy to help our neighbors in Springfield with their energy needs, but we don't want to participate in the poisoning of the air in their neighborhoods either. By now, we should all be aware of the immediate and long-term health dangers that natural gas creates. Even Eversource acknowledges this and has pledged to be carbon-free by 2035. What they refer to is making their own Eversource building facilities carbon-free, not the operation of their metering stations or the towns and communities they dump their deadly fumes into. As part of the Eversource-owned pipeline expansion, the Tennessee Gas Project would construct a meter station in our town. This is an even more dire threat to our community, which cannot be described in 3 minutes. Let me just share the fact that meter stations release methane and other pollutants into the air through their lines, valves, and connections, and that this is an expected and accepted part of the operation of a meter station. This is not acceptable to the residents of Long Meadow. The town has already voted overwhelmingly against it when it was proposed as a Columbia gas project. Now it is back on the table being deceptively marketed as the Eversource Reliability Project. I am asking you, what more can we do as a town to stop this destruction? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Deborah. Mike, do we have any other residents who would like to make a comment?
Anyone in the attendees list that would like to speak during resident comment, just press the raise your hand icon at the bottom of your screen, and I will let you in the order that I see them pressed. No one's raising their hand at the very moment. Oh, we do have one.
Caitlin Millett?
Yep, I'm moving Caitlin Millett in now.
Hello, sorry, not sure if you can hear me and if this is the right time. This is not regarding the Eversource issue, but do need to speak during the citizen portion.
Yep, you're on.
Okay. So my name is Caitlin Millette. I live on Meadowbrook Road with my husband, Matthew Retchen. I'm a nurse at the local hospital in Springfield here, the big one, and he works for the Sheriff's Department. I'm going to start by reading a letter from a neighbor, and then I will give an account of our own personal experiences regarding what we're coming to you with. So Maureen Weeks, who resides at 102 Meadowbrook Road, has for all intents and purposes turned her home into a flop house, much to the dismay of every homeowner living on Meadowbrook Road. Ms. Weeks, by creating a continuous rental situation of revolving doors to various quote-unquote boarders at all times of the day and late night on a weekly/monthly basis, has effectively stolen from the residents on our street the sense of security that living in Long Meadow, based on our property taxes, should provide. Backyard swing sets, slides, etc. on the street are left unused and yard playing inhibited, caused by the influx of fly-by-night tenants who have absolutely no commitment to our community, our neighborhood, or our street. Ms. Weeks, in the past, has rented a room to a known sex offender freshly released from jail, an indication that there is absolutely zero vetting being performed on her part. In the news article enclosed, which is something that I've sent to the town manager as well as Mike, Ms. Weeks was rejected by the town of West Roxbury, where she owns another home. And it now appears that the problematic trouble has landed on our doorsteps. And now just a personal account in my personal experience of living here for the past 2 years. My husband grew up in this town. I grew up in East Long Meadow. We've had issues with our tenants. There have been people who carry alcohol openly up and down our street, sit on the curb, drinking and smoking, and then leaving empty glass bottles, where we have 20 plus kids running around on this street. We have 2 little daughters ourselves. There was a maybe 20-something-year-old male who was out drinking, smoking, trying to climb trees, and then staring at our young daughter. And we called the police, and they came to speak to her regarding the incident, and they said she just shut the door in their face. There's people parking outside our home at all hours. I'm an ER nurse. I work at 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. I come home sometimes, brush my teeth, getting ready to go to bed, and there's cars in front of my house, people unloading, and I'm thinking with all the break-ins, they're coming to break into my car because they're approaching our driveway, and I call the police only to find out that it's just, her tenants who are coming up and down the street with suitcases and on bikes at all hours of the night. We try to ask who is around here, and we're told we're not allowed to ask that. It's nothing arrestable. There's nothing that the town can do. There's nothing that Paul Healy can do. There's nothing the police can do. There's people that use our driveway, they abuse the tax services right down to the trash. There's all kinds of bags, that there's animals everywhere tearing it and trying to get into it, and extra bags that I don't know if the trash man is just manipulated or bullied into taking. Abuse of the police services. There's no disclosure of who's around. There's an increase in traffic and speeding with the tenants, and half of them don't drive, so they need to get picked up or they get deliveries. And it's all kinds of people who are not committed to being an invested part of our neighborhood here. And just like the power lines are disturbing, so are the fly-by-night tenants. And we feel that if the town is going to continue to allow this to happen, which personally, after a level 3 sex offender being noted on this street, I am appalled to hear that this is even still a thing, then she needs to be regularly patrolled, monitored, as well as taxed to be committed to this town and contributing positively to it. And we've sent out letters in our neighborhood that are coming back to you, I'm sure, and there'll be more in the days to come. Mine will be one of them because I've been out of town for a couple of days, but we beg you to please do something to make our neighborhood safer.
Thank you. Thank you. Mike, do we have anybody else want to make comment tonight?
I do not see anybody with the raise hand icon.
Okay.
Can I just ask that if there is a representative from Eversource in there, the representative we met with last time did not give a name before she left? There was somebody who just put their hand up.
I think we can start, and we may not need a representative.
Okay. I do have someone else that just raised their hand. It might be another resident comment. I just put Susan Goldman in. Susan, could you unmute yourself, please?
Okay.
We can hear you.
I'm Susan Goldman, 75 Meadowbrook Road, across the street from Kate. And I very quickly want to corroborate everything that Kate said, not to keep you. I've lived on this street since 1978 with my husband and family. And Miss Weeks has been problematic for many of those years. What is happening now is very unfortunate, but pretty inexcusable. We welcome everyone on this street, and that is a point I want to get across. We welcome everyone of culturally, of color, of race, religion, etc. But we do not want people who make us feel unsafe. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other residents looking to make a comment tonight? Busy night.
We're coming through at the last second. No one right now.
Okay. So why don't we bounce back up to our public hearing? This is a continuation from a public hearing that we started at the last meeting, and there was a question about kind of the area and the proposed site of the pole, and so we had a site visit attended by myself and Josh Levine and Mark Gold, as well as Lynn and Mike Barbieri. Met us out there with Eversource, and the homeowner was there as well. I guess I'll just take this. So the question comes down to there's two choices, one of which is to site the pole in the tree belt on Forest Glen, just outside of the resident's home, and run overhead wires from the pole across the street closer to the park. Run the wires over Forest Glen, and then from the pole on the tree belt, run the wires underneath the sidewalk and underground on the resident's property to his home. The other option would be to site the pole on the resident's property, not far from where it would be if it was in the tree belt. Because if the pole is sited on the resident's property, he does not need a pole petition. He does not need to come to us for permission. So we can just pay for the pole and the install, have Eversource run the wires across Glenbrook or Forest Glen and to the pole on his yard, down under the ground and to his home. So that's a very rough sketch of what we saw and where we are. Wanted to throw it out to any of the other select board members who might want to make a comment. Yeah, Tom. You're muted.
Sorry, I forgot to be on mute. So those are two questions that both involve putting a pole basically in front of the house, either somewhere in the tree, and of course the tree belt can be pretty wide in a lot of these properties because they're such large properties. What about, she originally said that it was supplied through a pole that went behind the home, and what did they say the difficulty was in terms of being able to climb that pole? I know she said she didn't want to get a bucket truck in there. She seemed very concerned that nothing could be done with the current arrangements for electrical supply to that home because she couldn't get a bucket truck in. And so I don't understand I know linemen in Connecticut, I know they climb poles, they put spikes on, they climb up. And then, so what is the problem with taking a service from the current pole that supplies that home? And then she said that at the bottom of the pole, wherever it's located, the resident was going to put things underground going into the home. So if they use the current pole, I don't understand why. Did they say anything about why it would be unable for them to provide service underground, or do they just moved on to less expensive, less attractive options that are more convenient for Eversource?
And Mark, you had your hand up first.
Yeah, Tom, I'm going to answer if I can, and I may be putting words in Eversource's mouth, but I don't necessarily apologize for that. The sense I got from the meeting we had there was Eversource will not do that. It's not one of their options. Their options are we have poles for streetlights along the north side of Forest Glen, and therefore they insisted that they have the right to bring house electrical power from Laurel around that bend at Forest Glen, down Forest Glen on these overhead poles, and come across the street from that pole that's across their street to in front of 161 Forest Glen. They will not go behind the house. They said, we're either going to put a pole on the tree belt or we're going to put a pole on the person's yard, and we're not even going to entertain the option of renewing the service through the route it is. We don't like it. We want to abandon that eventually, and so we're not going there. And I don't know if Josh or Mark, you were also there, if you got that also that sense that they have the right to put it along the poles. They will need to put a transformer. Apparently they put 440 or 1760 or whatever it is volts up on the pole. They'll transform it down on a pole across the street that's an existing pole, and then bring 220 volts across the street, either to a pole on town land or a pole on the individual's land. So sure, Mark, if you have a different story.
So on the second part that Mark Gold just brought up, that's kind of the crux of it. If we say no, a pole's going to go up on the private property. And the reason for that is, from what I gathered from the site visit, the pole behind is pretty far away from the house, and it's behind Roseland Terrace, but it's not near any driveways, and it's not a matter of somebody climbing a pole. It's being able to get the bucket up there. The work that they necessarily would have to do maybe can't do with a line, or maybe regulations on that. From what I could gather, that house is the only house that it seems to be in a unique situation where it can't get the underground wiring on Forest Glen, and it can't get the underground wiring from Roseland. And so it's always going to be left out. And what the homeowner told us is that when the power goes out, if there's a storm, that is the last house in town to get repaired, pretty much, because it's so inaccessible to get back there. So eventually there's about 7 houses that are on a line in between Roseland and Forest Glen, and it's wooded. Eventually all of those are going to, except for this house, will really be off of the back of the wiring in the back of the house, because it's unreliable. There's trees all around it. It's very hard to service. So the other houses, I think, are going to, the ones in Roseland at least, that are serviced by that line, are going to get on this underground wiring. But we have a pretty unique situation with this one house in Forest Glen that has nothing else touching it. And while I'm on a roll, while I'm speaking, this is a unique situation. It seems like that there's no other really good option for these folks. They're trying to upgrade their service to be more reliable. And like I said, with the trees are going down all the time in Long Meadow, and it's only a matter of time before everything gets knocked down back there. And then these folks at Forest Glen are really in trouble. So I think it would be unfair to them to keep them in the dark, pun not intended, but the situation is only going to get worse for them. And all that being said, I'm glad I did the site visit. There's a post in the tree belt there. It's a little wooden stake. If a pole goes there, I don't think it ruins the integrity of the neighborhood. I certainly understand the concern there, but if the other houses on Forest Glen have the ability to get onto the underground or already wired underground, it looks like we're just going to stop at one pole. And I don't think it's that bad, all being said. And I think if Eversource and the homeowner call our bluff and put a pole on the private property on the other side of the bushes, out of the tree belt, I think that will look strange. I think we're better off allowing the pole on the tree belt. It's minimal. I think it's like the cell tower in the center of town. Does it look great? Maybe not, but the utility of it is good and it blends in. And this is a lot less than a 100-foot pole, I think. So I'll stop talking now. But that's where I'm coming across. The site visit I think was helpful, and behind the houses, that's a tough situation. And I think the homeowners deserve to be able to have more reliable power.
Anybody else? Yeah, Mark.
I'm just going to respond. I think that, first of all, if we think that we're getting added, this homeowner's getting added reliability by coming around the front of the house, they're kidding themselves. I lived through the October 2011 storm. This is a single house feed that now comes across Forest Glen Road. If that wire goes down, they look at what wires restore electricity to 10,000 houses, 5,000 houses, 25 houses. There's still a one-house wire. So I don't believe it's more easily accessible, but it's not really anything to do with reliability. I believe that putting an only pole on the south side of Forest Glen Road to serve one house is not the right thing to do. I think it does break up the street, what you look at as you look down the street. And more importantly, if the homeowner wants this pole, they ought to be able to and willing to put it on their property. The pole will only, and for all time, will only serve them. If we put it on the tree belt, I think what you heard from Eversource is once you put a pole up, it's their pole. They can do anything they want to, and they can start stringing all kinds of wires from it. That's what they told us about the streetlight poles. We are, in 1955, when we put up those poles for streetlights, they said they now have the right to put a transformer and electrical wiring on it. I think it's a mistake. I think it proliferates overhead wires when we don't want to do it. If they want to go a different route, let them go the different route, but I'm not going to facilitate them doing that on using town property. I intend to vote against this petition. Urge other people to do the same.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah, Mark, it's too bad there isn't a solution to the transformer on the back part of the property, where that original feed of electricity is. It's really too bad they can't. I know that we've approved transformers that are on the ground. We've done that. They build boxes, they protect them and so forth. And as far as the underground part, I think they're going to pull wires underground either from the pole that's there, or a new pole, or they could pull wires underground from a pole that's originally there. I know they don't like it, but I think when we try to get any stuff moved underground and avoid it making our streets look busy or losing some of the aesthetic qualities of our town, they're always going to say, well, we don't want to do it that way. It's too expensive. We don't like it. So I think I agree with Mark that I feel for the homeowner, but like you said, it's probably going to be a single feed access to their home. It's not going to save them much trouble, but it's really too bad that Eversource can't figure out a way to retrofit each of these homes along that street without putting up poles all the way down them. So that's how I feel.
What do you think, Steve?
Well, I was not at the site visit, and according to Mark Gold, they're not coming through the back. That's the best solution. That's the solution Eversource says we're not going to do. So if that's the case, there's going to be a pole. It's either going to be on the tree belt or it's going to be on the property. And I assume it's going to be fairly close to the sidewalk. I can't believe I'm going to put this too close to the house. In either way, it's not going to be, if we're talking about looks and aesthetics, either way is pretty crummy. I would say, though, from the homeowner's point of view, having a utility pole on your front yard is significantly worse than having a utility pole on the tree belt. I get the whole idea, it's the slippery slope. We put one here, who the hell knows what's going to happen? But I just think in terms of, if we're talking about aesthetics, I think a pole on the tree belt makes much more sense than a pole on the guy's front yard, which makes no sense to me at all. I'm not, and I think that Mark Gold is correct. Is wires going to come down? Wire, tree comes down, it's going to take out a wire. But if this is the only, I think that. If Eversource says we can't do it, I'm not sure what we do about that. I think it's coming through the back makes the most sense, and it costs them the most amount of money. But I think if it's a case of you put a pole on the street, and you put a pole in the guy's front yard, I think the pole on the street is actually less offensive to everybody concerned than a pole on your front yard, which is, unless it's a little dinky pole, which I don't. If it's the same size as your normal everyday utility pole on every street. I think it makes more sense to put on a tree belt than it does on somebody's front yard.
Steve,
not a good solution in any event.
You should have been at the walkthrough, because when they say the front yard, it's not like we're putting it in the middle of their front lawn. They're going to put it just the other side of the hedges. From there's a tree belt, sidewalk, probably a 3 or 4 foot area, and then a row of hedges. They're going to put it on their side of the hedges instead of, if you will, the town side of the sidewalk. So it's not going in the middle of their front yard. It's just moving it off of town property. And the fact is, if it's off of town property, then Eversource doesn't get to put all kinds of wires along it if they want to down the future, because it's not a public way pole.
Yeah, they do, Mark. That's one thing they did say was, they, as soon as the pole is in the ground, they have a right to run the wires from pole to pole. And that's kind of what Steve was saying. It's aesthetically, it's gonna be I much prefer underground wires, but in this situation we're stuck with wires coming from across the road regardless of what we do. I totally understand what everybody said. I think with Steve and Josh on.
Question of what you said is that they could run wires from the front yard behind that, wherever this pole is. There's nothing to stop them from putting wires down the street, is what you're saying, from this new pole on private property? That's what you just said. I mean,
well, no. So
the concern is, so if the thing's on right away, here's a pole, they can start putting wires down the street if they wanted to do that.
I don't think they would do that because they're underground already.
No, they're not. They're backfed. The rest of the houses are backfed.
They told us at the site visit the rest of Forest Glen has underground. The back feeding was only going up 7 houses on Roseland. That was the silo issue that we all were confused about. That is coming east from the west side of Forest Glen down towards the corner. There's underground going most of that way. That's what I heard, at least. Yeah. It just doesn't go far enough to get to this corner. Mm-hmm. So that's why I don't think we're going to have to worry about other poles going up the rest of Forest Glen.
All right, gents, who's going to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the Eversource petition to put the pole on Forest Glen.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All right, Mike, let's see what we got.
Mr. Strange?
Yes.
Mr. Morantz,
Yes.
Mr. Levine,
Yes.
Mr. Gold,
No.
Mr. Lacusa.
No.
Thanks, guys. Democracy in action. Up next is select board comments. Does anybody have any comments? Yes, Steve Morantz.
Yes, back to Eversource, our favorite conversation. What Debbie Skronick was talking about this evening about this pipeline coming through Long Meadow, I really want the citizens of this town to understand that this is on the table. It's been on the table for 3 years. Columbia Gas managed to blow up Merrimack Valley and therefore was suspended and then removed from the state into the operations. And so nothing happened. We didn't hear anything about a meter station in Long Meadow Country Club. We didn't hear anything about pipes going down through our town. Eversource took over the assets of Columbia Gas, and Eversource is bringing this thing back to life. And so we need to be aware of that. And there are a couple of things the town citizens should know. If allowed, and maybe we will, maybe we won't, since this pipeline is supposed to go into Springfield, keep in mind the last public document that we saw said this pipeline is going to go from Long Meadow Country Club, down Shaker Road, down Laurel, around Forest Glen, through Forest Park to downtown Springfield. That is the only route we have seen that has been public. They may change that, but that's what we know now. So think about where that pipe is going to go, and it's going to be a bigger pipe than what runs down through the streets now. So a couple of dates that one should be concerned about and pay attention to. October 14th, the Springfield City Council Subcommittee is having some sort of public hearing with Eversource. We may or may not be allowed to watch that on Zoom, but if we are, I encourage us to pay attention to it because Eversource will be answering questions. Eversource also said on their on their website, they will publish what they think the route or routes of this pipeline from Long Meadow Country Club will be, and that will be very important. They also said they will hold, quote, open houses, unquote, which is basically virtual meetings where they will explain this to us, residents of Springfield and residents of Long Meadow, about what's going on. And that's going to be November 9th and 10th. So we've had a lovely lull where nothing has gone on. That lull is over. Eversource is going to go to the state. They're going to say, we want this. We need to have we need to have an alternative source of gas that does not come under the Memorial Bridge from over the Connecticut River. No one is disputing that should something happen to that we need a plan B, that we have some option for having an alternative set of an alternative to using gas in this community should that supply disappear. Very different than building a new pipeline through Long Meadow, through Forest Park into Springfield. So I just want the community to be aware that this is on the docket. This is not going to go away. Eversource is going to present this to the state. And despite the legislation that's happened about, no more emissions, we need to get off fossil fuels by 2050, expansion projects are not off the table. Even though we're supposed to reduce our emissions by 50% by 2030, gas expansion projects are not off the table as far as the state DPU is concerned. So I'm asking the citizens to pay attention, to be involved, to know that this has not gone away, but it's going to come back in our faces in a very short period of time. And that's my select person's comment for tonight.
Thanks, Steve. Anybody else? All righty, town manager's report.
Thanks. Mark, I do see someone with their hand up, and I'm not sure if they were looking to speak during resident comment.
Do we have a name?
Robin Barthel. Do you want me to move them in?
Sure. Hi, Robin. Robin, you have to unmute yourself.
Evening, select men and select women. How are you?
Good.
Sorry that we're having to circle back to this. My name is Robin Barthel. I also reside on Meadowbrook Road. We've lived here for 20 years, and I am also in support of Caitlin and Mrs. Goldman. And my question to you is, at this point, at this stage, moving forward, what are you as select people going to do about this situation? Because I have actually had her tenants knock on my door in the morning asking for money. My husband threw one gentleman a $20 bill just so that we could leave and go to work. And 2 days later, we installed an alarm system. It doesn't seem as if it's going to stop. We're not asking that somebody cannot rent to a student or a boarder, but if there could be some sort of restriction or time constraint where it isn't a weekly, monthly happening or an X amount of rentals per year, because Airbnb is so very popular. I get that, but I just don't feel safe living here anymore, and I've been here for 20 years. So my question to you is, we express our grievances, but at this stage moving forward, what does the council do about addressing the situation?
So thank you for your comments. We typically don't engage in a back and forth during resident comment.
Okay.
But as this comes up, obviously we're all listening and making notes.
Thank you.
I will follow up with the town manager, because I really have no history on this.
Okay.
And they may well already be working on it. So
well, you can probably query the Longmeadow Police Department, because I'm sure that they have a running record of shenanigans going on at that residence.
yeah, we'll take a look at it. And
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I've never joined a forum. I appreciate your patience in allowing me to comment, and I hope something changes. And I hope that you all have a great evening, and thanks again for your time.
Thank you. All right, now the town manager's report.
Thank you. So for a COVID-19 update, at the time of the publication of the memo, which was last Thursday, there were 14 COVID cases in town. As of tonight, there are 15 cases. 80% of those are breakthrough cases. We're seeing a slight decline in cases over the last few weeks, and we're hoping that the trend is going to continue. Westcom, on Tuesday, September 28th, State 911 and Westcom held a regional meeting for individual PSAPs in the area to go over the regionalization opportunities and explain how Westcom works with State 911 for funding that's available. The meeting was well attended by, I think it was 7 other communities. There's no set date yet for when other communities could join. We're slightly limited with capacity at the current location at the Chicopee Police Department, but once the renovation happens at Salter College, we'll be able to accept more communities. Greenwood Daycare opened up today, October 4th. The before and after school programs continuing recruitment efforts, and a set start date will be announced soon. The Longmeadow High School Community Service Collaboration Project in Town Parks. The Parks and Rec director was approached by the LHS Community Service class to prepare a fitness and nature exploration project in some of the town's parks, including Greenwood Park, Meadows, Laurel, Bliss, and Turner. They plan to mark out a mile in each park and encourage families, individuals, and others to complete the challenge of walking a mile at each site. For each challenge completed, the participant earns a badge. The badges will be scattered in sponsor businesses throughout town. This is similar to the 4 Peak Challenge in Tupper Lake in the Adirondacks, but just a much smaller scale. This will not have a large impact on park use, but should have a positive impact on student service learning. The miles will be marked in paint without harm to the trees, and the timeline for this project is as soon is soon, as the project lasts only one semester until another group can take it over. The students are in charge of details and will post info on the project when it launches. The Bliss Park and Wolf Swamp playgrounds, the swings were reinstalled over the last 2 weeks. It was actually done by the DPW mechanics. The new hardware is expected to hold up a lot better than what was previously in place. And we're still waiting for the slide at Bliss Park to come in. It was shipped, but we don't have any tracking information yet. The wireless edge cell tower on Bliss Road had the utility pole set last week so that power can be supplied to the site. AT&T and Verizon are confirmed to set up on the tower, but it will be several more months as they receive equipment and have fiber brought to the site. The new adult center has a temporary certificate of occupancy in place, and we're working on plans to transition staff to the new building. IT's been on site the last 2 weeks, making sure that all the drops and connections are in place, and we're migrating some equipment over from the old facility. Plans are being made for a grand opening celebration in early October. The parking lot issues are continuing to be worked through. Soil remediation for the lawn started last week, and soil remediation for the landscaping will be done next. And the skate park concept community meeting was held last Tuesday, September 28th at 7 p.m. The recording of the meeting will be posted to the town website under longmeadow.org/community. It is not currently there yet, as I'm working with the website company right now to upload videos to the site. They've changed some of the site tools that used to be available to us, so it's not as easy to upload a video at the moment, but we will have it there by the end of the week. And that is all I have for an update tonight.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for Lynn?
Not a question, Mark, but Lynn, when you were giving a report on the adult center, I think you errantly said you were looking for an opening in early October. I think you meant November.
Yes, definitely November.
Okay, just wanted to correct that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Josh.
The cell tower, I thought it was initially Verizon and the other ones were coming on after.
It's a wireless edge tower. And so then they went out to get subscribers to the tower. Verizon and AT&T have signed on to join, attach their equipment to the tower.
Oh, when I was on planning board, I thought I was under the impression Verizon was going to be the initial when they first opened up.
I think there was several years ago, there was discussion about that predates me, but it is a wireless edge tower. They're constructing it.
All right, so wireless edge that's not a service. It doesn't help anybody until the carriers actually get in there.
Correct.
Okay. I got more questions about that tower than anything, so. All right.
Okay, moving on. Old business. Minutes from September 7th, 2021. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Strange,
Yes.
Mr. Morantz,
Yes.
Mr. Levine,
Yes.
Mr. Gold,
Yes.
Mr. Lacusa,
Yes.
Okay. All right, on to the fall town meeting warrant. Is this me or you, Lynn?
I'm happy to go through it again. It is largely unchanged from your last meeting, with the exception of some numbers being solidified. And an addition of a couple, one regarding legal bills. So I don't know if you want to, Articles 1, 2, and 3 are the same as your last meeting. Article 4 is the one that was added based on the vote that you took for sewer retained earnings. Article 5 was here the last meeting, but has since increased as the prior year has closed out and some bills have trickled in. So we needed to increase that amount to cover those prior year bills. There was an addition to the description in Article 6 that you asked for at the last meeting. Article 7 is a new one. This is to cover the legal expenses. We are going to run short if we don't put this forward from what we have budgeted for FY22. So this is to cover what will hopefully get us through the rest of the fiscal year. We do have some anticipated legal expenses regarding the DPW litigation. And then certainly if anything moves forward on the natural gas end, that would be available as well. Article 10, I'm skipping over the ones that are same from last meeting. So if you want me to do it differently, let me know. But Article 10, we just plugged the number in there. Last meeting, I think it was still uncertain as to exactly what that is. But we do have that number firmed up now. And
Before we go any further, can I just make a motion that we accept Articles 1 through 10, kind of do them in groups so we can put these put them on the warrant?
I'll second that. I'll second that.
Discussion? All right, Mike, you want to call roll?
Mr. Strange,
Yes.
Mr. Morantz,
Yes.
Mr. Levine,
Yes.
Mr. Gold,
Yes.
Mr. Lakusa.
Yes.
okay. Article 11 is the same as the last meeting, as is 12. This is the historical commission. Article 13 was on your last agenda, but we are recommending that it be removed. This would not actually be an article. This would have been a citizen petition. We received some inaccurate information in the office as to how this article came to be. So in our drafting of this warrant article, or your warrant, I'm sorry, we added this in here thinking it was something that a department was looking to put forward. And once we were able to determine the origin of it, we realized that it was not accurate. And so this should have been a citizen petition or an item that needed further vetting before it made it to this point. So we are recommending that it not go forward as a warrant article. It has not been reviewed by the planning board, and it was just merely a discussion between a resident and the building department.
Lynn, could you just, for people who can't see what that article is, could you just discuss a little bit about articles, the ones that's being removed? Just explain what it was so they'll know what it is.
Sure. This was an article that was recommending adding a definition to the zoning bylaws of apartment. So it was to create a definition of an apartment in the zoning bylaws.
Great.
Article 14 came from Energy Sustainability Committee. And Article 15 is regarding the rezoning of the parcel at the corner of William Street and Redford Drive. Articles 16, and these will obviously be renumbered too if 13 comes out. Articles 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 all are your charter changes that you did at the last meeting. And I believe at your last meeting there would have been what was Article 21 regarding some landscape improvements at Long Meadow High School. We don't have enough information to put that forward for fall town meeting. So I have asked that that come off as well.
I have two questions about the last articles. The articles on the Charter Commission, there's a whole bunch of words that are in blue. Are those words that the Charter Review Commission recommended? Are that something, and where did that language come from?
That's the addition or the change.
From the Charter Review Commission?
Change it. Some would be from Charter Commission, and I think some, if I remember right, was back in February of 2020. The Select Board did a pretty detailed discussion on this.
So some of those changes are the Select Board changes, and some are the Charter Review changes? Would that be accurate?
Correct. I don't recall exactly what the Select Board changed in February of 2020, but I do think there was some discussion, and it was not all Charter Review recommendations.
Well, just to follow up on one of those articles, it talks about taking into account sustainability, energy, and environment as part of putting that in the charter. My only concern is that it's moderately duplicative of the article that says, we're going to take climate change into account for everything, reduce greenhouse emissions, and create a town-wide plan to go forward. I don't want folks to say, well, we got one, we don't need both of them. I'm not sure that what's in the town charter review there needs to be there. That's one comment. And then on another different matter altogether, for the zone change, is that I'm not quite sure if I want a zone change, I can just come to, I as an individual say, I want a zone change, can you please put that on the town warrant? Is that the way it works in town, as opposed to I need a petition, I need to go to the planning board? I'm not quite sure how if zone change is any different from any other article on the warrant. How that, because this from what I get, this just came from the folks who want the zone change. I get that they want it, but I'm not sure in terms of the process if it makes a whole lot of sense to me how that works.
I'm pretty sure it's a state law, and it lists all the various groups who can petition for a zone change. One of them is the property owner, which makes sense. And others are, I think, a planning board, I think a mayor, group of say 10 residents. There's a list, and it makes sense. I mean, if you're a property owner, should be able to petition the municipality to change the zone if they want to.
Right. Well, right. But is a petition, or a petition is I, as an individual, am petitioning the town to do this?
Like, I couldn't petition to have your parcel change, right? But I could petition that my parcel change. It wouldn't pass, but I have that right.
So within the town rights, you as an individual could say, I want to open a store in the back of my house. I need a zone change to do that. Yes. And I could bring that as an individual to town meeting.
And doesn't he need
a citizen's petition to do that, Mark?
I don't, again, my experience is mostly in city government. So, but we do plenty of zone change applications in Agawam, and there's a state.
Here he needs a citizen's petition to if he wants to rezone his house to open a store in the backyard. He can't. He needs yes, he can petition it. He needs 10 votes in spring town meeting, the annual town meeting, to get it on the warrant. 10 signatures. I'm sorry, 10 signatures on a petition to put it on the spring town meeting.
That doesn't sound right to me, because you'd be denying him, a certain, right of property. So I don't know the answer to that. I'm just, my opinion on that, Mark, is that doesn't seem right.
And I don't know if this answers what Steve was asking before, but this was voted on by the planning board for a recommendation. So it has been discussed. There was a public hearing on it.
And what did the planning board say?
It recommended against it. 1-4. You may be able to get this.
But that still doesn't answer the question of how you get something on the town warrant. How do you get this article on? And there's something in the town. I mean, the fact that it went to the planning board and got turned down doesn't necessarily mean they can never bring it up again.
Oh.
So they want this on the warrant.
There's a statute, and then if this gets rejected, then it can't be brought up again for 2 years. So yeah, it's all in the statute. It's under the planning, 140 or whatever it is.
But Josh, did the planning board vote to put it bring it before the town?
No, planning board, it's not up to the planning board. Planning board voted to not recommend.
So who's it up to? It just showed up on this warrant.
It's statutory.
Well, it's up to, it's up to, so Josh was saying, so Josh is saying statutorily, the property owner has the right to petition for a zone change, that's what I think. So the planning board's negative recommendation is don't vote for the zone change. It wasn't, don't put it on the warrant.
I don't think they have the right to do that.
Yeah.
All I know, Mark, last year, we thought it was going to be on the town meeting warrant. The petitioners came to the select board and said, we're thinking of putting this on. And my understanding is that we didn't have a lot of options in this situation. That it was, if they really wanted it on, that it was going to go on. They did withdraw it, to my understanding, but I think that we also had, because of COVID, we wanted to have a short meeting, and so it made it a lot easier for us. But this meeting, it seems like we could fit this in, because otherwise they would have to have a special meeting and they would have to pay for it. But I think they have access to our town meeting warrant, because that's why it would have showed up last time, and we got to make a decision on it. I know that.
It's under 40A. I don't.
Yeah, 40A.
Section 5.
Thank you, Lynn. Yeah.
And they submit to the select board, you refer to the planning board, and then the select board decides whether or not it goes forward on a warrant. We do have the proponent in the queue. If you'd wanted to pull them in and speak to them, they're in the attendee list. They are available.
So the select board decides whether it goes forward on the warrant?
Yeah, I'm looking back through my notes because I had Attorney Belcher-Timmy look at that the last time we had this discussion.
Mm-hmm. So it doesn't get on the warrant just because somebody says I want it on the warrant. I mean, alternatively, and we've had this in the past, we've had petitioners get 10 signatures in the Springtown meeting, or I think it's 70 or 100 or something in the special fall town meeting, and it goes on as a citizen's petition, right? That was
it's on the warrant. It's legally on the warrant, properly on the warrant in front of us.
Right,
but the question is, do we want to keep it? Do we want to send it to town meeting?
But the process was followed in that they came to us. They said we said you need to go to the planning board. Planning board said 1-4. We don't think this is 4-1. We don't think this is a good idea. Planning board spoke. Then it comes back to us, I assume, and then now it's our choice to say, since planning board didn't want to do it, we don't think it should go on the town warrant. Let them come back for Springtown meeting with their signatures. I assume that those are our options.
The vote was not to not put it on the warrant.
No, the vote was not to. They didn't like the idea.
So we go to town meeting. The article is on the warrant. It's presented to town meeting. There's an explanation that the planning board gave a negative recommendation on the zone change, and then town meeting does its democratic thing.
So, Lynn, what happens if we vote to not keep it on the warrant?
That's a good question. I'm looking through section 5 now.
Josh, I'll give you my opinion. My opinion is they go back to go get 10 signatures, which you can get for anything, get it on the annual town meeting. But more importantly, they respond to I think what the planning board said is, you have no plan. All you want is a rezone. And I think people in town have said, and I thought you were at the planning board at the time, but said, you got to give us more if you want us to authorize this. And all they had was the most general of proposals, and the town wanted, or the planning board wanted more. And I suspect at a town meeting, the town will want more than just rezone it. Trust us, we'll do a great job for you.
But that, they do that at their own peril, right? So if they don't provide the information, then that's their choice. But or they can provide more information. I think
that's just the first step.
Well, but Mark, remember, the only obligation they'll have is what's on the warrant. Anything they say at town meeting, because I've been at town meetings. I was there 35 years ago when Presley Blake gave us all kinds of smoke about what he was going to do with the Long Meadow shops verbally, but then did what he wanted to because the zoning bylaw, the zoning variance passed. So what they say at town meeting has nothing to do other than what's written on this piece of paper. And I think people in town meeting are going to be, you're right, they do it at their own peril. I'm surprised they're doing it at their peril. Because if it fails, they got a ways to wait.
But they could give us the greatest plans in the world and say, we're putting in exactly what each of us want. Everyone in town will be happy. And then it gets rezoned, they could do whatever they want still, because it's rezoned. We went back and forth. I was the only one voted in favor on the planning board because, for that reason, what really comes down to it, we can ask and we can shake our fists and say, give us more information. They give us whatever they want. And, but at the end of the day, the rezoning is the rezoning.
And, kind of the broader issue here is, we've been chasing down ways to avoid hitting our tax ceiling. And one of those ways, at least to mitigate, to elongate the timeline, is to develop the parcels that we have available to develop to increase our tax revenue. Church parcel is one of the, if not the primary target for that. We can disagree about whether it should be rezoned or not. I think it needs to go to town meeting, and the residents need to be able to decide whether they want this parcel to be zoned commercial, and which will drive tax revenue, or keep it residential, which will also drive probably tax revenue, but not quite as much. I think it's got to be on the warrant.
I would go back to process, Mark, in terms of, and planning board said, this is a really good idea. Okay. They can't say bring it to town meeting, but they say, hey, look, we got this done through planning board. Let's put it on a warrant. Then maybe, as opposed to the ways to get things in the warrant, I think Mark Gold says, you need 10 signatures for town meeting to do it. This is not a big thing. They knew this meeting was coming. They could have got whatever they needed, 100 signatures, 50, 200.
I'm pretty sure they don't need 10 signatures, right? So, I mean, the crux of the issue is whether or not it's properly on the warrant.
Well, for this meeting, it's more than 10. It's more than 10 because it's a special town meeting. It's a full town meeting. But yes, I'm in the process, particularly since the planning board said, we don't think this is a particularly good idea given what has been proposed to us. Now, whether they never have to say anything else except we want it rezoned, trust us, we'll make lovely shops going out to Redford or not. I get what could happen at that, but I think it's a different story. Planning board said, sure, we think this is a good idea. They put on a warrant. They say, yeah, planning board thought this was a good idea. We want to put it on a warrant. Let's bring it to town meeting. Planning board said no. They didn't go through any other procedure except let's ask you guys to put it in town meeting. We have no signatures.
I'd say those are misstatements. I don't mind disagreeing, but those are not accurate statements. They went to the planning board. They did what they had to do. The planning board voted a negative recommendation. Right. If we do what you're suggesting, that takes the power of allowing articles in on the warrant out of the select board's hands and puts them in the planning board's hands.
That's not what I'm saying at all, Mark. The planning board said no. I'm not saying we don't put on. I said at this time because they didn't do any other thing to get it on the warrant except we want it on the warrant. Yeah, the planning board could say no. If they came up with their 10 signatures, say they've done their duty. Yeah,
your premise that the only way to get on the warrant is to get 10 signatures is faulty. That's what I'm saying. That's not accurate.
Then let's redo the town charter completely. That's what the rules are. That's how you get on. That's how you want to have a petition. As I said earlier,
a zone change. Zone change is different than a petition for whatever.
Well, that was the issue back in the day. I want to open a hot dog stand in my backyard. I don't need to go. I can just walk up to the board of select folks, say, I want to do that. I want to put this. I want a zone change. I want to put that on town warrant. Now you're saying I can do that.
If I own the property, yes. If I own the property, that's my position.
That's the question for Lynn.
Yes. So we should get an opinion from Jesse on that issue.
Yeah, Mark, I should make a comment. I think that zone change protocol has to be uniform across the state. You can't have each town setting up their own sort of plan, for how, what hoops people have to jump through. And so, I think in the past we've had zone changes come to the town. 6 years ago when I was running for the select board, we had just gone through it for the extension of the shops, the Long Meadow shops extension, including the CVS. And that was brought in at a town meeting, and the problem was the vote was not accurate. And so it had to be a special town meeting to take a second vote. There were a lot of people who were very suspicious of that because the original vote, it wasn't approved. And then in the special town meeting, it was approved. But because it was a voting issue, it didn't have to wait for a 2-year delay. I mean, it could be done again, and people felt, well, because it wasn't passed, they did a second thing and it passed. So, my opinion on this last year is the same as it is this year. I would rather see the whole town weigh in on this zone change. The town is the legislative body. It's not up to the select board. This needs to come in front of the town. And, even if you put it off at this point, I think, we would be doing so under peril. I don't think the state would allow us to not put this on. I could be wrong, but I know that this is going to come before the town one way or another. It has to. We can't say you're not allowed to have a zone change,
Yeah, Mark.
I just want to pick up on what Tom said. I agree. It ought to come before the whole town, but it ought to do it at a town meeting and not a special town meeting. I'm going to go back to where I was some time ago when I got lectured when I got first on the select board that the November town meeting is called a special town meeting, and originally it was intended to clean up issues from the town meeting, for the balance of the fiscal year. It wasn't going to take on major issues. Now I understand that the town's changed a lot, but that's why there's a different barrier to getting things on a special town meeting warrant than on a town meeting warrant, because it's a different kind of a meeting. And if you really want the whole town to be there, the time and place to do it is at the annual town meeting, which this is not. This is a special town meeting, and initially intended for cleanup, financial cleanup, get us through the fiscal year, and anything left over with free cash. So, Tom, I agree with you, but a special town meeting isn't the annual town meeting.
So last March, when we were considering this for the annual town meeting warrant, you did have me look and get an opinion from town council. And he did review it back then, and his review concluded that it was his opinion that it was within the select board's discretion based on his reading of the statutes, to refuse to place such an article on the warrant if you so choose.
And also, didn't we consider this zone change for the annual town meeting, and we took it off because we had 40-something articles?
Right.
Was that this one?
Yeah, that was the one. We had such a long, we didn't want a long town meeting because of COVID, and so we didn't put it on. Yep.
So now we didn't want it on for annual town meeting. No, we also don't want it on a special town meeting. I just think we don't want it on, right? We don't want people to vote on it. And regardless of how they vote on it, they should have a chance to vote. And frankly, if we put it on the special town meeting and we let the residents know, it'll be more of a robust discussion because people will be tired, people will be leaving, and there'll be some discussion on it.
I agree. People are going to show up. People, you think, oh, we'll have a special meeting, maybe people won't show up. Zone changes, the town shows up. As you look at what happened with the Brewer Young Mansion, you had 1,200 people show up for a special town meeting, and if this is on the warrant, I don't care what meeting it's at. Mm-hmm. People are going to show up to make their decision about what they feel the town should do in its best interest.
And just going back to my earlier statement, we need to decide on whether we're going to let the town wants this parcel to be developed, right? I mean, again, if you look at any sort of economic development thoughts or plans, one of the top 2 or 3 items is redeveloping church property to get that tax revenue. Whether it's commercial or whether it's residential, it needs to be developed. This developer has a plan for developing it. If the town doesn't want it, the town doesn't want it. They at least need a chance to have their voice heard on, in my opinion.
Mark, can I go back into one of Steve Morantz's other questions or comments, and that is, is Article 14 from the Energy Committee now duplicative because they didn't see what was in the charter change?
Which change is it, Mark? Which charter change?
So there's an article in charter change where we've stated it's paragraph W that we're adding to section 5-2 powers and duties, and it says paragraph W will say to consider environmental sustainability and energy efficiency when managing town programs and resources.
Yes, I would take that out. I don't think the Charter Review Commission put that sentence in there. I'm not sure.
No. Yes, they did, actually.
That specific sentence.
Yeah. Select Board didn't put that in. I'll go back and look again, Steve, but I believe that was from them.
I do think it's duplicative. I think that the other warrant article is more powerful and particularly given it's more specific, and it also has we need to create a plan.
Isn't W for just the town manager? And the other one is general. So I think it's okay to be specific with the town manager.
I think that's a good point, Josh. That this one really is more general about the town, and it would apply to all boards and committees. It doesn't say that, but it does sort of affecting us all as community, individuals and community. I think this is definitely 14 is much broader.
I think this is an important point to hammer in as many times as you can anyway. So I think it's, if the town manager has specific guidance to consider environmental impacts, I think that's excellent.
Well, we got to move on, Mark. I'm going to make a motion to approve Articles 11, 12, and 13. We'll do them one at a time. 11 and 12. 13 was canceled. I just want to renumber them in my motion. So I'll move that we approve Articles 11 and 12 as shown.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Mr. Strange,
Yes.
Mr. Morantz,
Yes.
Mr. Levine,
Yes.
Mr. Gold,
Yes.
Mr. Lacusa,
Yes.
I'll make a motion we approve Article 14 as listed, renumbering it as Article 13 for the warrant.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Strange,
Yes.
Mr. Morantz,
Yes.
Mr. Levine,
Yes.
Mr. Gold,
Yes.
Mr. Lacusa,
Yes.
Somebody want to make a motion to approve the new Article 14 or move it for the warrant?
Yes, so I'll make a motion for the article for the zoning district change for the Parcel 1 on William Street, which includes the land of the First Church of Christian Scientists, and Parcel 2, which is also on the northern line of William Street, that we would put this on the warrant.
Is there a second? I'll second it. All right. Roll call, Mike.
Mr. Strange,
Yes.
Mr. Morantz,
No.
Mr. Levine,
Yes.
Mr. Gold,
No.
Mr. Lacusa,
Yes.
Mark, do you want to keep on going?
Sure, I'll move we approve Articles 16 through 20, renumbering them as 15 through 19 as shown in the draft warrant. And
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Strange,
Yes.
Mr. Morantz,
Yes.
Mr. Levine,
Yes.
Mr. Gold,
yes.
Mr. Lacusa,
Yes.
All right, so we're all set?
Yes, so we will bring this back to you in its final form for your next meeting on the 18th and ask for you to set the location at that meeting as well.
Next
So there'll be
item.
a recommendation, Lynn, at that point, hopefully.
Sorry, I missed the first part. What'd you say?
Will there be a recommendation for a location? Is that your intent?
Yes, yep.
When is
Is that being done with the town moderator, or is that
Yes. Yep, town moderator will get our COVID update as well and look at the weather reports.
Has the Board of Health, are they meeting again before we have to set the location?
No, they're not. They ranked location choices at their August meeting.
Okay, you went over that with us, yeah. Okay.
Before we move on, if I may add one thing, to Article 4, I just noticed that I did not include the description in there. That is for the sewer retained earnings transfer. So for your next meeting, I will have a description in that article.
Thank you. Next up are the local 1903 and fire chief contract agreements.
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposed contract or tentative contract between Town of Long Meadow and local 1903 of the fire department union.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's important for people to understand who are watching this at home that this isn't flying through without the the detailed discussion that we have in executive session when we work through, is a nice polite way of saying contract negotiations. I think it comes out that, comes across perhaps as being, they didn't even spend 30 seconds talking about it, when in fact we spent more than 30 minutes talking about this. And the process is that we discussed it extensively in an executive session. We questioned a lot of things. We talked about a lot of things. We modified some stuff along the way, I think. But most importantly, the vote for accepting the contract must be made in open session. And so that's what this is. This is the culmination of a discussion that we had in executive session, but this is a vote in open session, which is why people are getting what they got. I think it's important for people to hear that.
Yeah, Tom.
Mark, yeah, I would just like to remind people that, we have a lot of departments that work hard. The fire department has had a unique opportunity that the fire chief has really moved forward on, in terms of, with the ambulance runs. If you look at the amount of money that comes into the fire department and to the town through the service that they provide, and then if you look at the quality of the service, I mean, we are just blessed. We are lucky, and I've had more than one person in town tell me that they sure that it made the difference in the in how their spouse or some family member was able to make out after a difficult situation like a stroke. And so, I think, not that other departments, are in a, are doing less work, but the fire department is just in a unique situation where the cost of this new contract is not going to be a problem for the town because of the job they do that involves getting reimbursement from different insurance companies. So I support this.
Thanks, Tom. So are we at the voting point here?
Yeah, it was made. The motion was made and seconded.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, Mike, call roll, please.
Mr. Strange?
Yes.
Mr. Morantz?
Yes.
Mr. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Mr. Lacusa?
Yes.
All righty, on to our block party requests. We have a request from Chrissy Fazio of 197 Greenacre to apply for a block party request to be held on Sunday, October 10th from 1 to 7 on Greenacre between Hawthorne and Winona.
I'll move we approve the block party request for Greenacre Road on Sunday, October 10th from 1 to 7, subject to the conditions set by the police chief.
Have a second?
Yeah, I'll second
that. Any discussion? All right, Mike, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Strange?
Yes.
Mr. Morantz?
Yes.
Mr. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Mr. Lacusa?
Yes.
All right, last but not least, we might get out of here before 9. Dartmouth Road. Go ahead, Mark.
I'll move we approve the block party for Dartmouth Road on October 17th from 1 to 5 p.m. No rain date, subject to the conditions set by the police chief.
Second.
Discussion? Mike, roll call.
Mr. Strange?
Yes.
Mr. Morantz?
Yes.
Mr. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Mr. Lacusa?
Yes.
Also, I'm not sure that we were supposed to vote on one more contract, I believe, right?
you. Yeah, I was gonna ask, I thought, I don't
We
know if
don't
that.
vote on renewals, Lynn, I don't think. We just vote on appointments. We'll vote on it, but I don't think so. If you want to vote on it, we'll vote on it. I'll move we approve the contract with the fire chief.
I'll second it.
Discussion. Michael?
With the same conditions as the fire union, I'll give the same speech and be done with it that was discussed extensively in executive session.
Strange?
Yes.
Mr. Morantz?
Yes.
Mr. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Mr. Lakusa?
Yes.
Thank you. Lynn, do we need to discuss the correspondence?
That is up to you. Or if you'd like to just give an update that it will go to traffic.
So quickly, under correspondence, was an email from a resident on Woolworth Street who had logged a complaint about the traffic during live line for Williams Middle School. The cars are lining up on her street in front of her house, making it difficult to get in and out in the morning. She drops her child off at another school. The request to, there was a request to petition the select board to lock the gate. There's a gate between Williams Middle School and Woolworth that's not locked. This issue was previously reviewed by the traffic committee and I believe the school committee. And the decision on whether to lock the gate is up to the select board. But I think Lynn who is a part of the traffic committee, is going to be discussing this at an upcoming meeting. And maybe there's another way to fix that problem, because if you've been by any school during a drop off or pickup, you see, the line of cars makes it difficult. Anybody had any questions? I'm happy to answer them if I can.
Has that gate always been open?
In my experience, yeah.
Always is a long time, but I've lived here 40 years and it's been open for 40 years.
Yeah.
Good enough for me, Mark.
Very good. Very good. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mike.
Mr. Strange?
Yes.
Mr. Morantz?
Yes.
Mr. Levine?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Mr. Lakusa?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you to the select board and Lynn and Mike. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Good
night.
Night.